E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Finding Health Naturally. Wednesdays, Mentoring Our Youth. Thursdays, Pets We Love. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And also, Emerson, our show is brought to them by Ideas Worth Knowing. They're more than just being a sponsor. They're part of our family now, aren't they?
That's right. I noticed on the titles that you're still saying the pets we love, and I think we're going to be
that's going to be changed. Yeah,
that's going to be changed, and this is maybe we can consider this even the first show.
This is the kickoff show of it. Yeah, it
really Ideas Worth Knowing.
Ideas worth knowing, and I'll tell you something else that's worth knowing, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you folks out there in TV land like complimentary things? Well, Emerson, we got a marquee there. It says, receive your complimentary 10 books. And all you got to do is get your library card and you can pick and choose and do whatever you want to. And you just simply go to ideasworthknowing.com, just like it shows there on the marquee. And with us today is Mr. Mike Lewis. And you know, Emerson, before we bring Mike on, everyone has a book in them, don't they?
Oh, that's the truth. Yes.
Yeah. You know, I've sat down many times and I've tried to write a book. I've got one, a couple of them is, halfway finished. But the biggest problem is that I don't know about you folks out there in TV land, but for me, I suffer from brain cramps. Oh goodness. And I'll cut this and I'll paste it there and I don't like that and I get it all messed up, But the unique thing about Mike Lewis, our guest, if someone's got a book in them, how does that work, Emerson?
Well, in most cases, you can talk a book.
Oh, yeah.
If we sit and we're telling somebody the story that we want them to hear, if we just take that kind of an approach, we can make a book. And if we have multiple thoughts that we want to be able to convey, if we just simply kind of plot them out and then just talk them.
Yeah.
That can become a book. In fact, Jim, Mike is going to be sharing, I don't want to pull back the curtain too much here, but Mike is going to be sharing how even appearing on this show and just talking for an hour and answering questions.
Being interviewed.
And a lot of people even worry about that. Well, in most cases, this is true, right, Jim? In most cases, you can send the questions that you want to be asked, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So when you have an interview and it lasts for an hour, guess what? You've got a book. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And Mike is going to really drill into how all of that works.
He sure will. And, you can be like I was. You're going to be like popcorn on a hot stove. You're going to talk about this and you forgot to mention that. You're going to, oh, yeah, I forgot this. And that's good because when he interviews you, it may be on a Zoom call, for goodness sakes, or, however he interviews you. But my point being, the main thing is to get all of this here into the spoken word, and it's recorded. And Mike and his team, they actually download that. I'm gonna let him get into all the nuts and bolts of it. But that's all you have to do. And my goodness gracious, you'll get a book and all sorts of wonderful things, won't they?
I have known people who spent years and years putting together their books.
Oh, yeah.
And and in one or two cases, the books became bestsellers. I mean, which is great.
Yeah.
But the agony and the drain and the way that just is tugging at you mentally and emotionally for so long is unnecessary. We actually can just speak a book. We can talk a book.
Yeah.
And when it's, as I like to say, massaged a little bit, cleaned up, okay, fine-tuned, structured, organized, and put into that format, now you have something you can be proud of. And if you own a business, oh my goodness, if you own a business, there's nothing. Did I say nothing? Nothing. There is nothing like a book to be a door opener, to be a business card, to leave behind with you, to give to your new customers, to send to. I signed one, always signed it, right?
Yeah.
To get radio stations, TV stations, podcasters to call you up, to interview you, to help promote your business.
Sure.
There's nothing like a book.
Now, to give you folks a down-to-earth snapshot of what we're talking about, all you got to do is go to ideasworthknowing.com that you see there on the marquee and just register your name and your address. You will get a library card that's good for 10 books. And that way,
selling books.
Yes, bestsellers. Yeah, we're not talking about, something that's on the on the rack for free at the library or anything. We're talking about a best-selling book. And my point being, ladies and gentlemen, that'll give you'll be able to pick and choose the books of interest to you, the topics. And then you can say, hey, I'd like to have my mental book in print and be a bestseller too. Let's invite Mike to the stage. I'm going to push the button and let you do the inviting, sir.
Hey, gentlemen.
Hello, Mike.
He called us gentlemen. That means we got to act like that today, Emerson.
It's harder for some of you than for others.
Yeah, he knows us well. That he's talking about me there.
No, I wasn't, but I'll get to know you better. No, Jim, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on here. This is a separate venture from my publishing company, which is Branded Expert Publishing. Anybody that wants to know about how to create a full book is welcome to go over there. But before you do, guys and girls, let me say this. If you want a full 150, 200-page book like you see frequently in Barnes & Nobles, it's going to cost you on your own over 200 hours of work.
Oh yeah.
And depending on the publisher, as much as 2 years to publish. So some of the information that's getting out there it's stale in the modern age, high tech stuff, especially if you're writing something that's 3 or 4 years old. It could be a great book, but it's not worth reading from a business standpoint.
That's
right. Because things change that rapidly. And that's part of what drove me to start Ideas Worth Knowing is I was seeing people were getting stale information, and now on the internet they're getting fake information, or they're getting information from well-meaning people that just don't know what the heck they're talking about. But they'll give you advice anyways. They won't let that stand in their way. So having said that, I decided first, the people that really had the answers for my people are very, very busy people. They just can't afford to spend 200 hours. And even if they use my system, they're still going to have 15 to 20 hours minimum in it. And they're going to pay me $20,000. And I'm on the low side. If you go to Forbes book,
that is the low side. Yes.
Yeah. Forbes book's deal can run you as high as $250,000. But they like their name a lot more than I do. But having said that, I realized it wasn't the guys I work with can afford that kind of money. It's that powerful a tool.
Yes.
And and having 15 to 20 hours in sounds way better to them than 200 hours,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
if you're talking to a doctor or an attorney that's making 5, 6, 700 an hour. Can you imagine if he wrote his own book, what kind of cost he's going to have it?
Mm.
And just, I hate to tell everybody there's no Santa Claus, but when you read a book from a past president or a past Secretary of State, thank God that wasn't president, uh, or the wife of a president, the ideas, the information are theirs, but they didn't write those books. I mean, come on, guys. Bill Clinton's getting 250,000 an hour to speak. He's not going to take time to write a book. I don't care what anybody says, and that's true of probably 80% of all business books.
Right.
Are either ghostwritten or so heavily edited that they might as well have been ghostwritten. So, through our interview process, we were able to do real well at keeping your voice in your book, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
think is critical. We want, if your mom reads the book, we want her to think you wrote it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the litmus test for it.
Absolutely.
But the problem was, even with our processes, it still took about 6 months to get one of these big books out. And as I said, in some industries like artificial intelligence, 6 months might as well be 10 years, the way
Oh,
that
yeah.
industry is changing. So I wanted a way to get books out to people that, number one, would take very little time for the author. Number two, because of it taking very little time, I could get some of the top thought leaders in the world to agree to do it. And by top thought leaders, guys, look at over here. We got Jim. We
That's right.
up
Yeah.
above is the best-selling author of the best books on how to invest in paper in the world.
Yeah.
The guy just over my head to the other side. This mirrored stuff is really hard.
Yeah.
That guy up there.
Let me remove ourselves so you have a full screen there. Give for
Yeah.
the benefit of the folks out
Okay,
there.
that'd be a little easier. I'm struggling, but anyways, that guy right there in the top, right there, former NBA star. He got a lot of publicity when he was in the NBA, but he still found the time to do a couple books. The girl right there, top syndication attorney in Florida, and one of the top in the country. She couldn't afford to spend 200 hours writing a book, and I'll tell you how she knew it. She wrote her first book herself, and usually as someone that's tried to write a book or has actually successfully wrote it is the easiest person to grasp our program. But that was from the author's side. That's why these authors are putting this out. But it's from the consumer side that it was really created. So like Jim's interview there that you see over my shoulder, he gives all of his podcasting secrets in there. The book is not quite ready to send out advanced reader copies yet, but I'm telling you, if you want to know how to run a podcast, Jim gave us all the secrets. He didn't hide anything, didn't hold anything back. So we got all of that information from Jim down to about 60 or 70 pages. And we did it all with a 1-hour interview. Plus, we did a lot of due diligence and research on Jim and how he does business and that sort of thing. But he's going to have a book that he'll have less than 2 hours in of his time. And we had an hour interviewing, and he'll have about an hour going through and editing it to get it just exactly the way he wants it. And it's a lot easier to get these superstars I'm interviewing to commit to an hour than it is to get them to commit to 200 hours. But more than that, they all love the fact that they can give you what's working right now today, and within 30 days, it's in your hands. And, most people have no idea that a typical publishing company takes 2 years after you finish the book to publish it. And if you're doing anything in the business world nowadays, that's like using the Encyclopedia Britannica to look up facts. It'll work, but not quite as well as using Google or quite as fast. So that's the reason we created this particular product. And it's kind of taken on a life of its own because several of the people I've interviewed like the process so much, they wanted me to do a whole series in their niche that would benefit all of their people and all of the other people in the niche. So for example, in the mortgage niche, I've got someone that's trying to produce a book a month. Obviously, his book was first, but the other 9 books are going to be from other thought leading experts that he personally knows and that he knows practice what they preach and have current information that he can put in the book today. Excuse me. Believe it or not, with staying home to work, I'm not so used to talking for real long periods of time. I guess it's an effect of COVID, but we put the concept together. We got real good acceptance of it. Where it's actually blown up on us, and we're struggling to get that website done that you gave the URL to. It's ready to look at, but there's lots of things that need to be polished in it. Let me put it that way. So if you see typos, if you see misspellings, anything like that, if you would drop us an email, we'd really appreciate it, because we're building the website for you. Or if you see something that you think needs to be clear, let us know. I mean, you know, we don't have pride of ownership. We want good information for the people.
Yeah.
And
I just going to say one thing too, ladies and gentlemen, that book being 60, 70 pages, my book, it's the bare bones. I mean, it's right down to all the nuggets. Plus another thing, people they don't want to sit down and read an 800 or 900 page book anymore. They want to be able to sit down and be able to read it and go through it, because time is very, very valuable to all of us. That's one thing that COVID brought along with us with this lockdown. We had a lot of time, and now people want to kind of like, they feel like they need to hurry up and catch back up. But see, having a book like that, oh my goodness, I'm so excited, because when Emerson first told me, he says, I got a book. I want you to do a book. And I'm going like, do a book? I'm doing 5 shows a week. Holy enchiladas. Are you kidding me? But
I get that a lot, Jim. I get that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And just think, you can just sit down with Mike and he'll just interview. He's got well over, I think, 1,000, 1,500, over 1,500 best-selling authors.
Only 1,000, but
only 1,000.
I'll get to 1,500 in another year.
He's got 1,000. He's going to have 1,001 with me. So make sure you're 1,000 number 2. How about that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and Mike's published at least 10 books that I've been in, including a bestseller that I did about 2 years ago. So I've known Mike. Oh my gosh, Mike, at least 10 years, and I've seen all of the, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of authors from all different walks of life that you've managed to create, a book that they can take and use and be proud of. And folks, something that Jim just kind of alluded to there, Mike has cracked the code, and basically every book that you publish anymore, you're able to make into a bestseller.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Isn't that right?
Yes, part of that is because we highly target the books.
Yes.
Our customers now, we don't do any fiction or poetry. We don't even, well, I shouldn't say we don't do memoirs, because I did a couple for family office people, but only because they offered me enough money. I didn't give a shit how hard it was going to be. So, but that's another story. Pardon my language there. Go ahead, Jim.
Publishing language, I think.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was invited to share my story after my heart condition and all in this book right here, and Your Health Turnaround. And I had to write a chapter in it. And I tell you right now, I would have done a much, much better job if I could have just talked it rather than type it. Because if you're like me, your mind goes faster than your fingers. And then you got, I have this very unique ability, Emerson, in addition to mispronouncing words correctly the first time, I can misspell words just like nobody's business.
Really?
And
I
then
thought
I
you
don't.
could just mispronounce them that fast. You can
Oh
misspell
yeah,
them
that
too.
too. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, Jim, I'm
it,
the same way. I can misspell some words 5 or 6 ways.
oh yeah.
If you can't spell a word 5 or 6 ways, you're just not a
Yeah.
very creative person.
That was what
Yeah.
Samuel Johnson said, the
Yeah.
person who
Yeah.
put together the first dictionary here.
Yeah, it's like when I'd get ready to speak and I was going to use a word that I really didn't know how to pronounce, I would spell it out phonetically.
Right.
That was an old trick
Uh,
of mine.
oh, I had a close friend that would always talk about just coming from San Jose, just to see how many people in the audience were going to correct his pronunciation. Because at 70 years old, he didn't know how to pronounce it yet. So,
Mm,
folks, the books don't have to be perfect for a couple
no.
reasons. One is the books are not carved in stone. It used to be when you did a book through a mainline publisher like us, the very first printing was 10,000 books.
Yes.
If you didn't have that thing perfect, you were going to eat a lot of books. But now
Oh.
we have print on demand, so we can rush it right to the people and get it to them right away. If we see an error, we can correct it within 48 hours. So it's a new age as far as our speed to get ideas to people. That's why I wanted the publishing company and the authors to take advantage of that speed to get. I don't want to call it hot information, current information that they've already done, and that's correct. When you talked about the podcast and doing things on it, you were giving us some examples that weren't 2 weeks old.
Oh
You
yeah.
weren't giving us any examples that were 3 or 4 years old. And really a person can sit down and one sitting. I read fast, so about 30 minutes for me, maybe as much as an hour for someone, and they're done. And there's a couple advantages to that over the webinars and other ways that people are teaching nowadays. For one thing, on most webinars, they spend the first 30 minutes telling you how great they are and what they've accomplished and why you should just send them your money. And quite honestly, I don't want to know who you are till I know I can use what you know.
Yeah. Amen.
So I'd love to have them take that front half hour and put it on the back so I can get to the good stuff. And that's what these books do. And because the people I'm using for the books, like you, are already very successful in their business, they wanted to participate in the books for just 2 reasons. One is it increases their credibility publishing another book, because almost all of them have already published one book and they know the value. And that in itself is a big thing. But the biggest reason most of them wanted to do it was the same reason you expressed to me. You wanted to make sure the people listening to your show got good information.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And we're all pretty good at what we do. I can speak for anywhere from 5 minutes to 16 hours, depending on what you need. And I'll tell everybody out there this: the 5-minute one is way tougher than an 8-hour one. I mean, when you've only got 5 minutes, you've got to hone it in. Well, the same thing is true with these books. Because you're only going to have 1 half-hour or hour interview chapter in the center of that book. You want to give your best stuff,
Right?
Yes.
And people are always thinking, "Oh, I shouldn't put my best stuff in the book. They'll read the book and never do business with me." Folks, that ain't how it works. If they see a story in there, like in Jim's Heart book, that they can see themselves in, that's the only chapter they're going to read in the book. They don't really care about the other chapters, and they're going to want to reach out to Jim because they're going to want to learn the things that he knows.
They'll see how much he knows. They'll see how easy it is that to understand what he knows.
Oh yeah.
And they'll say, "My goodness, if he knows this much, I need to really get with him so that I can pick his brains and learn more, or get more, or do more business, or any of whatever the purpose of the book is." But when you really give, as my mother used to say, you can't outgive a giver. When you really are giving them that value, you're giving them that value, people appreciate it, because so often today, what we get is fluff. We don't get value. We get, even when we were talking a couple of days ago on the show, Jim, when people click on what we call in marketing clickbait, and they go somewhere and it doesn't have anything to do with what it is that they were interested in the first place. It just hooked them and got them to go to a site. Well, so much of the information out there is like that. And when people really get value from you, they know that not only that you know what you know, and people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And when you're giving like that kind of value, that kind of rich information, what happens is people go, wow, I need to go further with this. I need to build this relationship, reach out, find out what else can be there that will enrich my life.
Yeah, I was very fortunate on the very first book to learn that. I wish it had been at the beginning of the first book, but I did learn it eventually. I went into a meeting with senior executives from a large company to talk about doing some work for them. And as I always do, I had my business card shoved in a book for each one of those guys. I passed them all out, and I watched the chairman of the board. He picked the book up, looked at the front cover, flipped it over, looked at the back cover, then fanned through the book real quickly, and then he set the book down. He'd already decided whether he was going to work with me or not right at that moment. I was back 2 weeks later, and boy, I was so proud. I saw my book out on his credenza, and I said, "What'd you think of it?" He says, "I didn't read the damn thing. I hired you." I'm like, okay. That's what you want, is people that need you from a time standpoint and a knowledge standpoint. And that's what they're getting in these books.
Yeah. And one thing too, I wanted to point out that the books really, to me, they provide an open door to me, to my audience and people that want to know me, because people want to know you. They want to like you. They want to trust you before they'll do business with you.
Yeah.
And it also inspires me, and it will inspire you folks out there in TV land. Once you do the first one, you say, hey, that was so easy. I want to do another one and another one. And if you're in business, especially, you'll be able to build a library of information. And this is going to, just share with people who you are on all fronts, what you may have in common. And it's just a win-win-win situation all the way around. And I just felt it, felt like I really wanted to share that with you folks out there in TV land. I really did, because this is how I feel in my heart, ladies and gentlemen.
And they're going to be so happy. You gave them so much information in that short interview that a lot of the questions, they're not even going to know that they should have asked those questions. Because someone getting new into doing what you're doing doesn't know what they don't know. And man, you just went through, 5 minutes to answer what kind of equipment they needed to get started with and what kind of equipment they needed as their business grew. And but the big thing was, you're talking about how you got great guests on your show, how you'd lead them through. You mentioned earlier today, if a person's worried about what the interviewer is going to ask them, send the interviewer the questions. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to mess you up. And I do have experience. So the biggest thing I do with all these high-powered people that I work with is drag your butt back in line, because these guys are all so creative, love their business so much. Another idea will pop in their head, and they just want to go on that tangent, and I've got to pull them back and say, no, this is what we're working on today. And that took me a while to learn how to do that. It's the only part of my business I haven't found a way to subcontract. And I use free conference calls, pays version, for most of my interviews, but I have used a lot of Zoom recently. But just on free conference call, I just broke the 35,000 minutes of interviews on that. And so, folks, I'm telling you, you don't have to worry. I actually prefer you not to study before I interview you. I told Jim the same thing. He's like, what should I prep for it? And I said, absolutely nothing. Your brain is creative. It knows what it needs to get out there. And if anything, we we kind of ran out of time because we only had an hour. You know, I
Yeah,
think
because
Tim
we were.
could have
Yeah,
kept
we.
delivering.
Yeah, we did this on a live TV show.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
We
mean,
really
it's
did. Yeah, and
yeah. I
it was.
mean,
Yeah, it was
pre-recordeds for
amazing.
sissies. You know?
Yeah,
Rich, I'm
yeah.
gonna throw out a little teaser here, because one of the things that we're planning on doing here with the show is having a day where we're able to bring in people who
Yeah,
have had a book and who have done exactly what we're talking about, and giving them the chance to
yeah.
to share it here on the show where we can interview them for your benefit. Now, I'm going to just tell you this too. In some cases, it will be people who have upcoming books, because we'll take and use the show just like Jim was just describing there, and
Exactly.
make it into the next book
Yeah.
that they have.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to this.
Yeah.
Stay tuned to the channel, and stay tuned to
Oh yeah.
Ideas Worth Knowing on Thursdays, because
Oh yeah.
that's exactly what we're planning on doing, is having the
Yeah.
people who have the ideas, who
Mhm.
are game changers, who
Mhm.
are thought leaders, who are
Yeah.
people who have things to share that may be able to influence and change and help you in your
And
life.
and also too, ladies and gentlemen, that's a true reflection of what you should do, because here we are, we're just sharing information.
That's it.
And we call it infotainment. Mike and Emerson will provide the information, and I'll provide the tainment, because I got a warped sense of humor. But my point being, we're demonstrating what we believe in here, and that's important, because that's what people want to know. They don't care what college you went to or what kind of degrees you got. They want to know that you're a person they can connect with. You're a person that can answer some questions. And not to blow my own horn about my book, but I wish I'd have had my book when I first started in this world of podcasting. I can honestly say that.
Oh yeah, it would have been a huge difference if you could mail the book to a prospective
Yeah.
big name person. They're immediately going to know that you know your business and that you're what I call a player. I mean, you know, you're someone that's got drive, and the book shows it. And I found that these little books actually are much more popular with my readers than the big
Oh, yeah.
ones that we worked our butts off on.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, you know, this isn't fair. But the fact is, I don't want to know everything there is to know about the podcasting world, but I want to know enough that I can get started. And the other thing that I saw immediately was, if I needed a consultant in the podcasting field, you know, if I was going to do my own podcast, I'd be hiring you to coach me. Just that easy, because you've been there. You know, you've made a lot of mistakes. I hope you can keep me from making.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was part of what Jim was saying about he wished he'd had his book too.
Yeah.
Not just to have the book to be able to use to expand his business, which it is huge for. But to have had it as a guidebook, right, Jim?
Amen.
Yeah. I've got a couple other things I want to cover today, but the first thing I want to do is mention to people, because of the position in life that my authors typically are in, they don't need to make money from selling books on Amazon. As a matter of fact, they just soon you get the book from them free, because that puts you in their sphere and they can help you more. Whereas they don't know who bought a 99-cent book on Kindle, or where that 33-cent residual check came from, or royalty check. I'm sorry. I get so few royalties, I just don't care. And folks, I got 24 plus books on Amazon. But one thing that just in the last 6 months we've seen really rock most industries is this company called OpenAI. And then we found out every other big company in the world is right behind them doing it. And it's we call it Chat GPT, and that's very misleading, because we're all used to chat bots that pop up in the right hand corner of websites when you're trying to read stuff and just aggravate you. That's not what these are. It's short for chat robot. And the reason for that is they created these trillion-word language systems that are unbelievably good at predicting what word follows the last word. And why they called it chat anything is beyond me. I mean, to tangle it up with and confuse it with existing technology was silly. But one thing that launching has done is it's taking the value of knowledge from, I mean, it used to be whoever controlled the knowledge had the power and made the money.
Mhm.
It isn't that way anymore. You and I and everybody else in the world can take artificial intelligence and go find out anything we want to know. If you want to know just what the best SLR camera is to do podcasts, if you ask Chat GPT, it'll give you a page and a half about what the camera is, why you should buy it, what price it is, where it's sold at. I mean, way better than Google could do. So what that's done is it's at one side of the scale, it's cheapened the value of information down to where I don't see much true value in information anymore.
Just
And
plain information.
on the other side, it's made it so that a lot of people that shouldn't be giving out information can flood the market with information. So the secret in the new AI generation is having experienced people that have worked in that niche that'll share what's working today for you. And the biggest thing I can do for all of my readers out there is be an arbitrator. In other words, I aggravate. I pull everything in. I sort through it. I decide which ones are good and which ones are bad. I had turned down 2 other people that wanted to do the podcasting one for Ideas Worth Knowing, and hopefully they're not listening, but they were way too new in their journey to help people the way that I knew you could. And
Not only that, very few podcasters or TV hosts, online or offline, do a daily hour show.
That's true.
Daily hour show is a lot of work. It's a lot of experience over a period of whatever, 3 years, Jim, 4 years.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how many shows it was, Jim, and I can't do math on that big of numbers.
Yeah, it's we do 5 a week, and I did a radio show there, and I mean, even on my radio show, I had 6 million downloads, and
think of that, folks. 5 a week is 250 shows a year.
Yeah,
and you've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
something like that, or more.
I got to tell you a funny story. A person told me, he says, Jim, you're one of the top shows on E360 TV. And I said, well, I got to be honest with you. A lot of the other hosts, they do 1 show a week, maybe 2. I do 5. So that's like me being a baseball hitter getting up and saying, I hit the baseball, get more hits than anybody else on the team. Well, you should. You're up there 5 times to 1.
Well, but by the same token, that batter has 5 times the experience every time they get up to the plate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You never get rusty. You never get.
I mean, Babe Ruth was known. I mean, obviously Hank Aaron and others, have been on top of that for the last few years. But Babe Ruth was known as the home run king. What most people don't know, he was also known as the strikeout king.
Yes, he was.
Because every time he stepped up to bat, he gave every swing everything he could, and he had a lot of strikeouts.
Oh yeah. And I'd like to say one thing very quickly for people that's maybe doubting about whether or not they got the ability to deliver a verbal book in an interview style with Mike. Just take baseball for an instant, and I want to get off of this, but if a batter is got a 350 batting average, he can hit 35 home runs a year. That's a Hall of Fame career, basically.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But look at that. 350 batting average. That means 650 times he gets up the plate. He's not going to get the first base or anything else. He's either going to strike out, be called out on strikes, or fly out, or whatever. But when he steps up to the plate, the hope and the dreams of the fans come up because, oh boy, he's up. He can do stuff. And take that one step further. Think about what you can do to touch one person's life out there that you may not even know to make their world a better place to live. You have that book in you. You have that ability. Trust me, you do. We all have special gifts. And don't. Well, Emerson, we were talking the other day about the richest place on the planet that Les Brown likes to talk about.
Yes.
And what do you say? Here, I was in Orlando, standing over the side of the stage, and Les was up there talking. He said, "Where's the richest place on the earth?" I'm thinking, well, I grew up on a farm, North Carolina. I know it's nowhere around there. So, which is true. But what did he say there? You remember his words there?
Right there.
Yeah. He says the richest place is the graveyard because that's where all of the dreams are buried that were never lived. That's where all of the books that were never written are buried there. Think about all of the inventions that he mentioned that were never created. They're buried there.
Yeah.
And we can easily see where all of those things could be a tremendous blessing to mankind.
Yes.
So please, please, please take advantage of the opportunity there to go to Ideas Worth Knowing. Get your complimentary library card there and get 10 books. That will open the door. It will open up the canyons of your mind. And I know, ladies and gentlemen, you will say, hey, I can do this, because you can. You really can.
And Jim, I want to mention that a lot of people are concerned that, well, I'm not a guru or whatever. I've never found anybody over 25, and sorry, kids, but over 25 that didn't already have enough life experience to have a darn good story to share with other people. Now, they may not know how to drag it out, but they don't have to. I'll get it out of them. And we do work with younger people if they're experts. Like Emerson recently talked to me about one of his clients that we're probably going to produce a book for that I believe was a guest on your show. And
17 years of age, microgreens.
Yeah, he's an expert on microgreens. And I'm like, you're 17, how much of an expert he is. But I went out and did my due diligence, and he truly is an expert. So if you want to know about microgreens, he's going to have a book out there that'll teach you everything you wanted to know. And by everything you wanted to know, I don't mean it's all inclusive. I mean, it's giving you the specific things you need to know about a specific area that you're in pain. You know, if you don't ever want to do real estate syndications, don't read Kim's book, you know, because it's about how to do real estate syndications. You know, these books are all written for specific pain points that the authors know about with their customers. And that's why some of them are actually doing multiple books, because they didn't want to put 6 or 8 different things all in the same book and end up with a great big volume. You know, it's so they're doing individual, easy to read books where part of the deal, and now these people pay me to produce these books because I don't work for free. But part of the deal is to be in the program, they've got to be willing to give those books to the public. That's one of the things I ask him for. If you want to be in a book, you help me make it a bestseller for you, so I can send you this big award to put on your wall and all that good stuff. But you know, it's exactly what they wanted. You know, it's I realize that, you know, these real experts have, I mean, you've seen it yourself as a podcast and broadcasting expert, that you can start talking to people, and after about 10 minutes, their eyes get kind of glassy and maybe they drool a little, you know. It's because you're giving them information with a fire hose. Whereas we took your fire hose of information and put it into nice prose that people can read. They can make notes if they get the printed version of the book. By the way, folks, the digital download of the printed book is free, but we got to pay the piper too. If you want a printed book, you got to get it from Amazon. Now, I will say this: we try to keep the books under $6. for a printed book. We base the book on the lowest price that we can sell it for anywhere in the world. And so that includes the printing costs to actually create the book, and the fees that Amazon or Drafted Digital or any of the Barnes and Nobles, any of those, they have fees too. But we want to. I mean, my authors want to get the message out.
And some of these books are as much as $20 or $30.
Yeah.
So it's getting 10 of these books. It's not about how much the book charges. What Mike is sharing with you is there are reasons a book may not be charged as much as another book, but the value add that you get has to do with the value that you're looking for in that book and the subject matter. And you're getting people who know what they know because they know that they know it.
Amen.
When you put it out there, there are lots and lots and lots of things that go into the decision making on things like how much do you sell it? Do you have a hardcover or only soft cover? Do you only have digital downloads? How do you do it? So a lot of that thought process, the authors and the experts go into, and what matters is the value add that they're giving you in these books.
Yeah. One thing I'd like
yours regardless.
Oh, yeah. One thing I'd like to share very quickly with the folks out there in TV land. I never, ever, ever thought that anybody would ask me to create a book on podcasting, of the ins and outs and all that. It never dawned on me. But now, after it's happened, imagine how I feel, and imagine how you would feel knowing that you took that one step, you got that book inside you out. It makes you feel proud that you did it. Not a puffed up pride, no, but a pride that you were able to accomplish that, because that book is going to be much bigger than you will ever be as far as reaching people and touching people's hearts. And that's the focal point of why you want to do a book. And if you want to touch people's hearts.
And if you have a business,
oh my
or
goodness.
if you are part of a charitable organization, a nonprofit organization, maybe your house of worship or wherever, but there are stories that are there, and there is nothing like that book in your hand. You hand that to somebody to be able to extend that vision, extend those stories, extend that value to those people.
And Mike, the thing that I really like about the truth, and I've said this many times, truth is stranger than fiction could ever be, because you can't make it up. I mean, it just reaches out there and grabs you.
That's the truth.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I love reading books about, true stories and stuff like it. That's some of my favorite shows, is watch other people, how they've struggled in life and what they went through and how they, came through, because it inspires us all. It really does.
It certainly does. And these are all people that are already successful in their business. That's another prerequisite for being included in the program. I mean, I don't care what business you're in, because I've interviewed people, and I can't think of a business I haven't done it in. I will say the vasectomy book was a little painful to do. It's
He's not joking, folks.
Yeah.
Guys doing 1,700 vasectomies a year. But that's another story. What I really want to impart to the people is these are major players that we're bringing into this, but we're bringing some people in that are soon to be major players. And you may be a major player in the knitting arena. Well, I'll do a book for you about knitting if I think that if you've been doing it for 20 years and owned a yarn shop and taught classes, you've got some real value there, because there's a lot of people want to learn how to knit. So I don't want to always talk about the business guys.
Right.
I mean, it's fun to say that, on that top line of people, the guy with the flamingo coat right there is the only one that's not a multimillionaire of those four people. I mean, Danny played in the NBA. She's a syndication attorney. Troy owns banks. We're talking very busy, very well-paid people. And they have a second. The first thing and the driving force is getting good information to their people, but they also want to grow their businesses. There's no question
Sure.
about that. And they know that the more books that they publish, the more strength they're bringing to their business. And that's what people want to see. They want to see continuity and congruency, because those are the two things that we use to help sort through the BS. And folks, they're backing up truckloads of BS to dump on us right now. It just is the way it is. So you need to, when you're going into areas that you don't know about, you need to find an expert. And that's why we interviewed Jim. That's why we interviewed all of the people that you see there behind me and dozens more. Is we had done our due diligence and we knew that they knew. I mean, even that young kid with the microgreens, we went out and really researched and stuff. And the fact is, he really knows about microgreens and some of the health benefits that he put in there. As we were working through it, I'm like, I need to try this stuff.
I don't think Connor or his mom or dad would have a problem with me sharing this, because they've shared it themselves. In fact, I think they shared it on the show.
On the show, yeah. Go ahead.
Connor had, he was, I think the phrasing that they used when he was born was failure to thrive or something like that.
Yeah.
But he had myriad health issues and communication issues and other things that he has dealt with in his short life. But, and this is for everybody out there who feels like, oh, I don't know if I could do it, if I could share it or whatever. When you start talking to this young man about microgreens, that passion light comes on, and he is so articulate and so he can tell you details about it and explain to you the difference between that stage of growth in vegetables as opposed to later in the vegetable and the value add that it is and the differences that it made for him. That's what Mike is talking about there.
And the one thing too, when Emerson first called me and told me about this 17-year-old kid, I'm thinking, okay. And Emerson says, trust me on this. This young man knows what he's talking about. And ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to say is that if you see, he was on the show twice. That's how good he was. If you see either one of those shows, then his age being 17 will not come into your mind at all, because he's just going to blow you away with the passion of what he knows, what he loves, what it did for him. And he wants those microgreens to do the same thing for you. That's the attitude all behind creating a book. It's, it's passion. It's about helping others and blessing others. And we've all got that. Go ahead.
And we didn't go into it, but there's a lot of other things we didn't cover on this show. We will in a future show, folks.
Yeah.
But the book is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to blowing your business up. I mean, there's press releases, there's speaking engagements, there's TV interviews, there's more podcasts. There's a path to success. And strangely enough, it's not a secret. I found the people that have walked the success paths are the first ones to want to share with me. They don't want to keep people from doing what they did. They want to drag more people along with them, because they know the world will be better for it. And that's really the underlying thing that drives that whole project. And it's what I think is going to be kind of the theme for the Ideas Worth Knowing segment of your television network is, we want passionate people that know their stuff. I mean, you're not ever going to see me interview a 20-year-old life coach. I'm not. I don't think anybody can coach me that I have shoes that are older than they are.
I hear you.
Just my prejudice there.
Well, the publicity side of it, Mike, is a real good point, because Jim has experienced this firsthand. When I was doing the press releases for the concert that we were putting together, we had I don't know over 200 podcasters and blog posters and you name it, in radio and newspaper. that wanted to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem we had was the place was already sold out. We couldn't get
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
more in there. You know, I mean, it was, but you know,
A
just
book,
think.
a book makes all the difference in that kind of arena.
And I want to mention something else very, very quickly, what the book can do. I don't care what type of a magazine it is. They got magazines on everything out there. But if you got an Amazon best-selling book and you want to write an article, you would be doing that editor a favor, because they're always searching and needing good material.
Yes.
And if you got a best-selling book and some other person shows up and they says, I'm going to, send you a story. I mean, they're going to pick you 100% of the time because
Yeah.
you're proven.
It's
You're
even
proven.
more true with the television industry. Most people
Yes.
try to reach out to the stars. I can tell you, Kelly Ripa doesn't
Mhm.
book anybody for her show.
Right.
She has no idea usually until the morning she shows up who's going to be on the show with her. But her producers sure as heck know. And the number
yeah.
one thing that producers are concerned about when they bring a guest on is that they not do something stupid and get the producer fired. That's number one for them, is don't book anybody that's going to get you fired. And so there's a lot more safety if they can see this guy's been around, he's written the book, the public likes the book,
Mhm.
So I mean, because the producer can't be an expert on everything.
Right.
So
Right,
they need
right.
help. And that's
Mhm.
why when you watch CNN or Fox News, they shove a microphone in somebody's face, and the first thing they say is, "This is Jane Smith. She's the author of blah blah blah." And
Yeah.
Jane, what do you think about this? So
Mhm.
they gave that as her credibility,
Mhm.
but the question she's answering usually has nothing at all to do with the book, because the
Right.
book took 3 or 4 years to go out, and
Mhm.
then Fox wants today's book news.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's one thing, and they never tell you whether it's for sale, whether it was
Yeah.
a bestseller. I know we're
Mhm.
running out of time, Jim.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We'll get it on the next one. I made
Oh,
several
yeah.
notes on what I didn't get to today, and I
We'll
promise
be,
you, folks, there'll be another shot of this.
yeah, we'll
We've
be,
got so many people lined up for the show that
yeah.
it may be a couple weeks, though.
Oh, yeah. And we're so glad you tuned in. Be sure and be with us next Thursday, because this is going to be an ongoing show, Ideas Worth Knowing. Please go to ideasworthknowing.com, get your complimentary card, get your 10 books. That will help you. That'll give you a clear picture of what this is all about. And ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. On behalf of Emerson and Mike, thank you so much for tuning in today. And on behalf of us, we sincerely hope and pray that you and your loved ones are healthy, happy, and blessed. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.